Hey, it's Lemon. Welcome to the Backlogs. Hope you're doing well. Go ahead and take a seat, and we'll get class started. Today's weapon showcase is the final category of great weapons that I haven't covered for Dark Souls 1, the Great Hammers. Colloquially known as
Big Bonks.
These weapons are all about brute strength and gross motor movement. If you're putting points into dexterity, you're doing something wrong. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, it's Arm Day. And today, I'm going to show you how to beat Dark Souls 1 with only Great Hammers. But first, a quick shout out to today's video sponsor, Displate. Looking to spice up your living space but can't bring yourself to put holes in the walls? Well, now you don't have to, because Displate posters can easily be hung on your walls with their quick and tool-free magnet kit, thanks to being crafted from lightweight steel. And thank God they are, because the mailman apparently thought it'd be funny to dip my posters in a pond. Oh, you thought that mailman vendetta I mentioned in previous ads was fake? Wrong-o! Vendetta! Vendetta! Simply prep the wall space, stick the included magnet on the wall, and attach your poster. And because Displate posters are attached with magnets, you can easily swap to a new poster whenever you want. And with so many beautiful posters to choose from, you'll be happy that you can. There's all sorts of categories to choose from, ranging from movies to video games, and comics to cats. They also come in 3 different finishes: matte, gloss, and textra. I decided to take full advantage of the texture this go around and got myself some beautiful textured maps of some of my favorite fantasy worlds. Don't look at that one. I don't like Elden Ring. I said don't look! So if your walls are in desperate need of a makeover, give Displate a try. Use the discount link in the description and pin comment down below, or use my code BACKLOGS to get 26% off of 1 Displate, 31% off of 2, or 36% off of 3 or more. Right then, when you hear Great Hammer run, what's the first Great Hammer you think of? Personally, my brain turns to the Demon Great Hammer. Not because it's particularly good, but because it's the first Great Hammer that the game uses to beat my skull into the pavement. And it's also the earliest Great Hammer you can get. The first weapon drop of the entire game, in fact. All you need to do is kill the Asylum Demon with black firebombs, or your bare fists if you're completely mad, the very first time you encounter it. If you leave the arena and explore the rest of the Undead Asylum, it won't drop. So you have to commit. But if you commit, there you go, the Demon's Great Hammer. Now, don't get too excited because we've got several problems to work through. First off, you can't even use it. The strength requirements are massive, and the weight is unbearable. And even when you get to Firelink and you can level up your strength, it won't be nearly enough. We're gonna need a whopping 31 strength to even two-hand the thing, and the likelihood of you using it to grind out the necessary souls to get to that point is, yeah, no, that ain't gonna happen. Which means we need a way to get some big, poppable souls. But there's a problem there too, because in order to get enough souls, we need a way to get to Blighttown. Now, at first, I thought this was an easy problem to fix. Fighting against enemies and bosses is basically a non-starter right now, but if we take the definitely intended shortcut down to the lower Undead Burg, we can climb the Infinity Ladder all the way to the Drake Bridge and... oh, it's locked. Wait, what kind of door is locked from both sides? Okay, so that's out. And because we took black firebombs instead of the master key, we don't have a way to unlock the Valley of Drake's door either. But there's one more possibility available to us, and it's out in the middle of New Londo. If you can somehow avoid all the ghosts and make it to Ingward, you can kill Ingward with the last 5 firebombs you have on your person. It's not particularly hard, since you can interrupt all of his spellcasting with a well-timed firebomb. And with the 5 you should have remaining, that should be just enough to kill the Red Wizard and get the key to the seal, which you can then use to drain New Londo, take the elevator down to the drained city, then take a hard right instead of a left and run out into the Valley of Drakes, where, so long as you duck and weave, you can dodge said Drakes and their attacks, and finally make your way to Blighttown. But after doing all of that, I felt kinda bad. I'm no stranger to ignoring the tutorial, because tutorials never count in challenge runs, but killing Ingward with firebombs just feels like a cop-out. So you know what? Let's start over. We can do better. So long, pretty good ham, and hello, better ham. This character took the Master Key as their gift, killed the Asylum Demon like normal, and can now access the Valley of Drakes without killing any base game enemies. And there you go. Bad feelings gone. Now, for those of you who are still conflicted, I have one final solution for you. Start as the thief, and take the black firebombs as your starting gift. This gives us the best of all worlds. If we get the death animation of the Asylum Demon with the black firebombs, but quit out immediately, when we load back in, the demon is still alive, which means we haven't killed anything without a Great Hammer. But if we talk to Oscar, he thinks we have killed the demon, and gives us the key to escape the asylum, which means we can enter the base game with both our integrity intact and a master key, since the thief automatically starts with one. You'll love to see it. Now, I know what you're thinking. If we don't kill the Asylum Demon, how are we going to get the Demon Great Hammer? I don't want to wait until New Game Plus. Well, good news, neither do I. And we don't have to. If we take a sack to Snuggly the Crow, we can actually trade for one. I don't exactly understand the conversion rate on that one, but hey, I'm not complaining. But until then, we've got some souls to collect in Blighttown. And more importantly, we can get our first official Great Hammer. Just sneak past these boulder-throwing trolls, and the Great Club is yours. And with all those souls we just collected, we have enough strength to two-hand it, which means damage is back on the menu, boys. And if you decide to use a humanity and let Mildred invade, you should be able to bonk her back to the Stone Age and get yourself another 9,000-ish souls. Which means you should be hovering around roughly 31 strength or so, or 26 if you decided to go the thief route. And considering you can two-hand the Great Club at 19 strength, you'll be fine no matter which route you took. But we're not done in Blighttown just yet, because we've got one more item down here to collect. If you grind these boulder trolls for long enough, you can get yourself a brand new Great Hammer. The pickaxe? Wait, no, that's not right. So, fun fact, the trolls do in fact drop another Great Hammer that we need during this run, but only some trolls. A fact that I completely blanked on and only remembered after I got a few more pickaxes. Don't worry though, we don't have to go far. We just need to go up the elevator and get into a fight with the 3 trolls up at the top. And if you grind them for long enough, eventually you'll get the second weapon of the run, the large club. And some poop. Can't forget the poop. Alright, let's talk movesets. First off, the Great Club. Coming in at a whopping 135 base damage, B strength scaling, and plenty of durability, the weapon is balanced out by its 28 strength requirement and 12 pound weight. Its one-handed light attack is a downward slam, which can combo quite nicely with some follow-up attacks. Its one-handed strong attack is a slow jumping slam, and its two-handed moveset is the exact same, animations and all. If I had to guess, the only difference between one-handing and two-handing your weapon is going to be the damage and loss of a left-hand slot. The same is true of the running and backstep attacks, which are just a quick downward slam, as well as the jumping attacks, which are exactly that, jumping attacks. In fact, the only moveset difference between one-handing and two-handing the weapon is the rolling attack. The one-handed rolling attack is a horizontal swing, while the two-handed version is actually a downward slam that does some AoE damage. Moving on to the large club, we've got 120 base damage, A strength scaling instead of B, and a slightly lower strength requirement at 26. Durability is the same, the weight is slightly lower at 11 pounds, and hey, would you look at that, it has the poison status effect. That won't really come into play during PvE, but if you're doing any PvP online, that might be fun to play around with. Combine that with some rotten pine resin to increase the poison buildup, and throw some poop at your enemies, and you've got a fun status strength build. As far as moveset goes, FromSoft got a bit lazy with the Great Hammers, as I'm pretty sure they all have the same moves outside of their strong attacks. The large club's one-handed strong attack is that weird horizontal lunge that the trolls do, which could be a lot of fun for a Shrek playthrough, and the two-hand strong attack is a simple downward bonk. Get out of my swamp! That is the worst Shrek impression I've ever heard. Well, the clubs definitely seem to be working better than the Demon Great Hammer was, that's for sure. And because the clubs do strike damage, they tend to even do great damage against enemies with heavy armor, which means getting things like Havel's Ring is actually much easier this go around. Jesus, the Great Club can almost one-shot the Taurus Demon at +0. If you went out of your way to get this thing upgraded, you probably wouldn't even need an item buff to finish the job. Speaking of upgrading, interesting thing that I noticed. Despite the large club having better scaling, it doesn't surpass the Great Club. In fact, it's only 6 points more damage. I know the lower base damage is affecting that, but still, I would have expected it to be higher. You know, I've always hated the fact that Dark Souls is so vague about its scaling. The range of what constitutes a specific letter is almost too wide to be helpful. I would have preferred a letter be a static stat multiplier myself, but I know I'm probably in the minority on that one. If someone ever makes a mod that replaces the letters with the actual percentages, I'm downloading it faster than the color mod someone made for me to help distinguish between the Demon Princes and Dark Souls 3. But seriously though, why is this weapon type so strong? I can one-shot the stone golems in Darkroot Garden. We're only at +5, but it's just smashing through armor and bugs like they're nothing. No wonder people like this thing. Now, it is a bit harder to use in smaller areas, since it doesn't have any smaller attacking angles except for the two-handed rolling attack, but that attack is so powerful and does so much poise damage that you almost don't need anything else anyway. Ooh boy, this is going to be another quick weapon showcase, isn't it? I mean, how much more can you say about a weapon class that revolves around the press R1 to win mentality? Well, we've got a few more weapons to collect at least, so we've still got a few more things to talk about, but with the sack collected from the butchers down in the depths, and my tree trunk doing hundreds of damage per swing to bosses and enemies alike, we're gonna be hard-pressed to find a challenge in this here challenge run. But you know what? We've put in the blood, sweat, and tears already. Why not enjoy the fruits of our labors? And besides, not every run of Dark Souls has to be a tear-stained battle of attrition. Sometimes you just want to pop open your favorite game, pick up a literal tree trunk with your bare hands, and smack the iron golem to death in 3 attacks. And by golly, if that's what you want to do, you go ahead and do it. That challenge run where you beat the game with a broken straight sword will be there waiting for you when you get done. There's no rush. Now then, with our progress completely unheeded, we need to make a quick stop to the Undead Asylum to trade for the Demon's Great Hammer before we forget. Coming in at 138 base damage, there's really no reason to use this weapon at this point in the run. The durability is incredible, but the 46 strength required to wield it is impossible to ignore. And the B's strength scaling isn't doing it any favors. Combine that with the fact that it weighs 22 pounds, and there's just no reason to use it if you have other Great Hammers. Even the moveset is the same as the others. Sorry, Demon Great Hammer, you're a fun collectible, but nothing more. At least it can be buffed, I guess. But then again, so can my Great Club. In fact, according to people who like numbers, the Great Club has the highest attack rating of the game if you enchant it and have 99 strength and 99 intelligence. Of course, that's not to be confused with DPS or actual damage once defenses are considered, but that's still a pretty good indicator of how much wombo combo potential this weapon has. Speaking of wombo combo, we've already blown past everyone and made our way to Ornstein and Smo. And so long as you kill Smo last, you've actually set yourself up to collect the next Great Hammer of the run. Bring the giant blacksmith a plus 10 Great Hammer, and he'll convert it into Smo's hammer. But before you go, make sure to stop in Havel's hidden treasure room and snatch up the Dragon Tooth as well. 2 more Great Hammers down, 1 more to go. Let's start with the Dragon Tooth. Havel's weapon of choice, this Great Hammer boasts 290 base damage, gives you 20 fire and magic defense when you hold it, and has near infinite durability. The only problems are that it requires 40 strength to wield in one hand, has terrible scaling, and is a massive 18 pounds. As per usual, its moveset is basically the same as the other Great Hammers, and even its strong attacks are just heavier downward slams, so there's nothing much more to say about it. I mean, I guess it's worth mentioning that it's one of the few dragon weapons that can be buffed, but that's definitely counteracted by the fact that it requires dragon scales to upgrade. So, you know. Anyway, let's move on to the other Great Hammer we picked up, Smo's hammer. With 300 base damage and 600 durability, this weapon is also difficult to upgrade, since it requires Demon Titanite. What's more, it has terrible strength scaling, weighs an impossible 28 pounds, and has literally the highest strength requirement of any weapon in the game at 58. But hey, at least you get 10 HP back every time you kill an enemy with it. What do you mean you're not impressed? Well, what if I told you the light-handed attacks aren't straight downward swings, but actually go slightly to the left? Eh? Alright, you're a hard nut to crack. How about this one-handed strong attack? Sure, it takes a year to launch, but look how awkward and confused you look. Even you don't know how you managed to hit behind you. And the two-handed strong attack lets you do a little jump attack. That's cool, right? I mean, sure, you could just do a normal jump attack at like twice the speed, but where's the fun in that? Yeah, I don't know, man. Outside of this weapon having a larger hitbox than the other Great Hammers, it's just an awkward weapon to use, which makes it a real bummer that it does the most damage of all the Great Hammers I have right now. It's just, God, it looks dumb. And look how much screen real estate it takes up. I can't even see what I'm running towards half the time, and for bosses where you need to be able to see their incoming attacks, you almost have to swap it out between animations. At least you don't have to keep it out for long. 4 or 5 swings ought to do it. Personally, I prefer the Dragon Tooth if we're going to optimize for damage, since it's really not that far behind as far as DPS goes, and it lets me equip better armor or the Grasscrest shield due to its lower weight. But it still looks kinda dumb. I mean, look at this. It makes it look like I'm Earthworm Jim in this frickin' cutscene. None of you know what Earthworm Jim is, do you? No, it's fine, don't mind me, I'm just old as shit apparently. Please, go back to playing Fortnite on your primary monitor. I'll just be over here decomposing, don't mind me. At least that buffing factoid I mentioned earlier came in handy. Using an electrified Dragon Tooth against Seath is the kind of irony I'm here for. But with the lords falling like flies, I guess we might as well wrap this up and go for the final Great Hammer of the run. After placing the Lord Vessel and making your way through the Tomb of the Giants as a human, you get invaded by Paladin Leroy. And, after soundly rejecting his offer to give him all of our souls and humanity, Paladin Leroy eats some truly significant dirt, and we rob him completely blind. And just like that, our final Great Hammer, Grant. Unique from the other hammers we've collected, Grant not only has 130 physical base damage, but an additional 130 magic damage as well. And despite its ironically ungodly weight of 24 pounds and unholy 50 strength and 30 faith stat requirements, it makes up for those facts with its B strength scaling, A faith scaling, and its holy modifier, which means it can keep the undead dead. The moveset is the exact same as the other Great Hammers, but it has one unique move. Its two-handed strong attack, where it lets out a blast of holy energy, nuking everyone around you. It costs 200 durability, which means you can only use it 3 times, but the damage scales with faith, which means 3 times might be all you need. And with this new holy powerhouse in hand, the rest of the game is more or less a formality. Just pump that faith up as high as you're willing to go, make sure to keep track of how many times you've used the Wrath of the Gods, and bring said wrath down upon the heads of your enemies. And that's really about all there is to it at this point in the run. If holy damage isn't really your thing, any of the Great Hammers will do you just fine,
But if you're like me and love bringing holy damage to every fight, it's hard to pass on Grant. It just feels right to be blasting demons back to hell with holy light, you know? That said, you'll want to switch it up when you get to the DLC portion of the game. Grant can still do some massive damage, but the more physical Great Hammers will outperform it at this point in the run. Unfortunate, considering how big of a stat requirement using Grant is, but FromSoft loves them some magic-resistant bosses in their DLCs, and holy damage is unfortunately considered magic damage in this particular game. But that's about it. The biggest bonk weapons in the game, doing what they do best. Not bad. Not bad at all. Personally, they're just a bit too unwieldy for my liking, and the fact that you're basically required to medium or heavy roll when using them is a deal breaker for me. You all know me. If it doesn't let me dart in and out of combat, I'm probably not a fan. But at the same time, you can't deny the results. If big heavy bonks and massive numbers are what you're into, give the Great Hammers a try. They might be exactly what you're looking for. And with Gwyn's face caved in by a piece of the dragons he fought so hard to destroy, that's Dark Souls 1, beaten with only Great Hammers. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you learned something new today, or at the very least had a good time hanging out. And with Great Hammers down, we've only got about 6 more weapon classes to go, and about 9 more videos left to make before I've covered pretty much everything I wanted to cover as far as these mechanic showcases are concerned. Where do we go from there? Let's just say I've been grinding these last few months, and my bottomless box isn't looking so bottomless these days. But until then, that's all I've got. Take care of yourselves, be good to one another, and I'll see you all again soon.